It's Friday, August the 21st, and welcome to the reading of the Mansfield News Journal. My name is Pam, and we will begin with today's area deaths. Paul J. Koger, 78, passed away at his residence surrounded by his family Tuesday, August 18th. Visitation will be Sunday, August 23rd, 1 to 4 p.m. in the Denbow Gosh Funeral Home. Ashland services will be Monday, August 24th at 11 a.m. in the Truth Baptist Church at West Salem. This concludes the area deaths listed in the Friday Mansfield News Journal. So now, on to our first article. Council approves nearly $1.7 million in relief funds by Monroe Trombley. Mansfield City Council on Tuesday approved spending nearly $1.7 million in federal money as part of the coronavirus relief bill, which was signed into law in March as the novel coronavirus pandemic prompted governors to shut down aspects of the economy. Before approval, Mayor Tim Thaker circulated a list to council members that detailed what the money, $1,690,386.14 to be exact, would be spent on. The funds can be spent only on COVID-19 related expenses and must be used before December 28th. We're kind of under a big crunch to get this whole project done and paid for by the end of the year, said Finance Director Lynn Stewart, noting that purchase orders have to be filed by October 15th. Among other things, the city plans to use the federal funds to buy computers and docking stations to make working from home easier for employees, laptops for council members, touch-free fixtures and doors, and 3 police cruisers, which will be outfitted with equipment that can neutralize the novel coronavirus. When the shift is over or when they feel that there was a COVID transport, they can then turn the equipment on, Thaker said. It heats the inside of the car up to 133 degrees for 15 minutes, and that, based on research, kills the COVID virus. The city had planned to buy 42 body cameras, but the law department thought that expense would be a stretch, Thaker said. I would rather be safe than have to pay it back, he added. The Mansfield Fire Department will be able to pay 1 paramedic to act as the department's COVID safety officer. That extra person will join other paramedics and firefighters on service calls, making sure personal protective equipment is being worn correctly to prevent the coronavirus from being brought back to the fire stations. The COVID safety officer is something that we desperately need, said Fire Chief Steve Strickling. We haven't been able to do that because we've been under the Overtime Reduction Act. We would like to get back to that quickly. The city ordered the fire department in May to eliminate non-emergency overtime to cut costs, given the expected shortfall in tax revenue. Overtime was being used to backfill positions whenever someone was sick or injured, so that 19 people would be on duty across the city's 5 fire stations. In June, the city allowed the fire department to use overtime, so at least 18 people are on duty at any given time. With the coronavirus relief funds, the city plans to partner with the Richland Area Chamber and Economic Development and award $275,000 to small businesses that have been adversely affected by the pandemic. Thaker said each business could receive up to $10,000. Akron, when they did this, had about 3,000 applications from small businesses, Thaker said. I don't think we're going to have that many, but I'm sure that there's going to be enough small businesses that need money to help them get through this COVID crisis. The mayor said he heard talk that Mansfield could receive an additional $3 million that could be used for salaries and other things desperately needed by the city. The hook is, we have to spend all of this $1.6 million in a manner that is justified and documented before we would even qualify for any additional money that may come out of the federal government, Thaker said. Also, a bond issue was pushed back. In March 2019, the city contracted with K.E. McCartney and Associates, paying the firm $539,800 to develop a capital improvement plan for the water treatment plant. Altogether, improvements to the plant could run upwards of $35 million, not including security upgrades. The city intends to pay that amount by issuing a 40-year bond paying $1.7 million a year. On Tuesday, Council pushed back voting on the bond issue from September 1st to September 15th. We need time to talk about this. This is a major project, Van Harlingen said. Stewart, finance director, expressed concern about water revenue, which will be used to meet the city's debt obligations. It's down 7.3%, or $338,000 from last year, according to Van Harlingen. That decline is likely due to the pandemic and water meter functionality, according to Public Works Director Dave Remy, noting the water meter replacement program has been delayed. Stewart proposed breaking the bond issue into 2 phases. I just think that if we split this into 2 phases, that we'd have a better idea of what our revenue is going to be in 3 years, and we can do the second half of the project then, Stewart said. Even if it does cost us a little more money, say for doing a second amount of bonds, that's better than getting the city in trouble where we maybe couldn't pay our debt and go into fiscal emergency again. Come September 15th, Council will decide whether to raise water rates. Remy has said the proposed rate hike stems from the following facts. The city hasn't raised water rates since 2004. The Ohio Environmental Protection Agency found the city in violation for not reviewing water rates every 3 years. The water treatment plant needs about $35 million in upgrades. The city needs more revenue to pay for aging infrastructure such as water mains that in some cases are over a century old, according to Bob Bianchi, city engineer. Out of 320 miles of water mains, Bianchi said, Mansfield has about 50 miles of 3-inch and 4-inch mains that need to be replaced with 8-inch mains in the coming years. Larger mains produce greater water flow when firefighters tap into fire hydrants. Bianchi said when he started working in the engineer's office 13 years ago, the city averaged about 100 water main breaks a year. It's up to about 160 per year now, he said. To give you an example, to do a $2 million project, we are looking at 3 miles of water line, Bianchi continued. When we need to replace 50 miles, you can see how many years that would take if we spent literally $2 million a year. We haven't developed a system where we intend to build up cash. We are building a system so that we can properly and adequately supply quality water to citizens of Mansfield. But the water treatment plant remains priority number 1, the engineer stressed, saying that the water lines can be strategically replaced for now. The last thing we would ever want to do is to not be able to provide water to our system, Bianchi said. It would be catastrophic on a scale to which is even difficult to put into words. In other news, Council heard a presentation from Lee Tassif, president of Destination Mansfield Richland County, on the impact of pandemic on local tourism, similar to the one he gave last week to Richland County commissioners. Approved 9 demolitions: 8 Stude Avenue, 28 Flint Street, 132 South Adams Street, 148 Bowman Street, 226 South Diamond Street, 239 West 4th Street, 326 West 6th Street, and 340 West 3rd Street, and finally 605 Harold Avenue. Amended 3 traffic ordinances, bringing them into compliance with state law. Discussed amending city law to begin using a construction manager at risk during construction of public improvements. Authorized accepting $50,000 from the Ohio Attorney General's office to assist with the Opiate Response Team project. Granted a license to Oakmont Education, 1160 West 4th Street, to use the public right-of-way to build a bus shelter. Next article, Lexington Schools pick WMFD for streaming, by Mark Cottle. Lexington fans who won't be able to attend football games or other extracurricular activities in person because of COVID-19 restrictions will not have to miss out. At Wednesday's Board of Education meeting, members voted 5-0 to enter into a contract with WMFD TV for streaming services. Earlier this week, Governor Mike DeWine lifted restrictions for contact sports, but added attendance would be limited. The Lexington Board considered proposals from WMFD and the OH report. High school principal Kevin Young and athletic director Jeff Eichhorn presented a slideshow with what each local media outlet was offering. Eichhorn said WMFD would cover football, volleyball, boys and girls soccer, and boys and girls basketball, along with music concerts, band concerts, and graduation. Patrons would purchase a virtual ticket to watch games live or on demand through an app on a streaming device, smartphones, or the internet. Each event would cost $9.99, and there would be no upfront cost to the district. WMFD would deduct up to $2.50 per ticket. The $7.49 cost would be divided between the school district and WMFD. Lexington local schools would profit a minimum of $3.50 per ticket, and the contract would be for 1 year. The OH report proposal did not include any pay-per-view or subscription costs to fans. There would be an upfront cost of $5,000 to the district, which would net 50% of the sponsorship earning. The OH report's proposal would cover 25 events. Is there a limit for WMFD? Superintendent Jeremy Seacrest asked. Eichhorn said there was not. Board member Rob Schuster favored WMFD because the TV station would stream more than sports. To me, that's a no-brainer, he said. Board member Dave Roberts asked if senior citizens would receive a discount. They can't control how many people are watching in the living room, Young said. The principal recommended the board select WMFD. I think it's a low-risk, high-reward opportunity for our community to go with WMFD, Young said. Schuster said he was troubled by the OH report's limited number of events. That's a lot of money for 25 events, he said. In other business, the board voted to increase lunch prices by 10 cents per lunch in the 2020-21 school year. Prices will now be $2.85 for elementary, $3.10 for junior high, and $3.35 for high school, and $4.05 for adult lunches. That's a requirement by the USDA based on what they give back to us, Seacrest told the board. Board President Robert Whitney asked the superintendent about preparations for the school year, which gets underway September 8th. Seacrest said he had relayed protocols from Richland Public Health to the building principals. He said the buildings will be equipped with plenty of sanitizer, wipes, and masks. Prior to an executive session, during which no action was taken, the board also talked about outside groups using the district's buildings. Those groups include the Mansfield Symphony Youth Orchestra and the Girl Scouts. Roberts said he had no problem with it as long as the groups adhered to safety protocols. Schuster agreed. These kids have lost enough already, he said. This next article says BLM marchers have heated discussion in Shiloh by Lou Whitmire. The Mansfield post of the Ohio Highway Patrol was called to northern Richland County around 9:15 p.m. Tuesday when a group of Black Lives Matter marchers walking from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C. were involved in a heated discussion with another group as they entered the village of Shiloh. Sergeant Nathan Dennis of the Columbus, Ohio Highway Patrol Public Affairs Office said on Wednesday. Dennis said while the marchers entered the village, there was a group that lined the streets. Dennis said he had no information if the group was composed of local residents. There was some heated discussion between the groups, Dennis said. There were no arrests and no injuries, he said. The Richland County Sheriff's Office handled an assault report from the disturbance in which a 38-year-old Canton man said he was assaulted. A deputy was dispatched to the area of Brenneman and Nobles Roads at 9:15 p.m. to assist the patrol units who were reporting a disturbance at the location, according to the Sheriff's Department. The deputy in his report said he arrived to see a large gathering of vehicles and people in the road. He observed 2 troopers standing among 2 large crowds of people who appeared to be arguing with one another. He said he attempted to help troopers intervene and calm the situation. While in the crowd, the deputy said he was told someone was assaulted. The deputy made contact with a man from Canton who said he was slapped in the face by a man wearing a mask. The victim said the suspect male accused him of spitting on him, which led to the suspect slapping the victim, according to the sheriff's report. The victim denied spitting on the suspect. Due to the hostile nature of the scene, the deputy said in his report he did not collect a written statement from the victim at the time. The victim said he did not spit on the man. The victim said multiple people with him had the assault on video. The deputy asked the victim to forward any and all video footage to his email for the deputy to review. The suspect, a 43-year-old Shiloh man, said he did slap the Canton man in the face after the Canton man spit on him or his cell phone. The suspect showed the deputy a video on his cell phone of him arguing with the victim. Mr. Victim can be seen making a movement with his mouth in which he either spits or blows a kiss at Mr. Suspect. The deputy said in his report it could not be determined at the time if the victim actually spit or not, the report said. Both men left the scene. Lieutenant Amy Ivy, commander of the Mansfield Post of the Highway Patrol, was unavailable for comment on Wednesday. The patrol escorted the group of BLM marchers on Noble Road East to US 250, Dennis said. Well, time to move on. His passion for baseball is insane. Rose gives one-on-one batting lessons to Ontario freshman Zugan. John Spencer, Mansfield. It looks like baseball legend Pete Rose has met a young man who works just as doggedly at the game as he did. Thanks to a strong Crestline connection and an unbreakable bond between 2 well-known sports figures, Ontario high school freshman Peyton Zugan saw a dream come true last month when he received 2 days of private hitting instruction from Charlie Hustle near his home in Las Vegas. One of the souvenirs Peyton brought home from his crazy weekend in Vegas were 2 bloodied hands. That's what happens when you spend 8 hours in a cage. Not an MMA cage, a batting cage. Not even gloves could keep calluses from forming. They were Peyton's red badges of hard labor. He did take a couple of thousand swings, Rose said. The biggest swing was taken a couple of weeks earlier by Pete Zugan, Peyton's father, and boy did he connect. The elder Zugan was sitting on his riding mower one Sunday afternoon thinking about hiring a coach to work on hitting fundamentals with his son. Grassroots baseball meets the hit king. I do most of my thinking when I mow, Pete Zugan said. I started thinking, I've got to get Peyton a batting lesson. Everybody thinks they have the next superstar. That wasn't my intent. Pitching is his stronghold, but he was struggling with his hitting. Then a freaking light bulb went off. I thought, you big dummy, you've got the best connection in the world. Mike Gottfried and Pete Rose are best friends. Gottfried, the former Mayer College football head coach and ESPN analyst, and Zugan are Crestline natives. Zugan, a local businessman, was mayor of Crestline from 2002 to 2008. Zugan sent a text to Godfrey. Tell me if I'm crazy, but is there any chance Pete would give my boy batting lessons? Vegas, here we come. Within 2 hours, all of the arrangements were made. The Zugans, including Pete's wife, Lindley, and daughter, Teresa, flew to Vegas, where Rose made arrangements to rent out the elite baseball academy near the airport. Rose had one request. Send a video of Peyton in a batting cage so that Major League Baseball's all-time hits leaders could see who and what he would be molding. When Pete Zugan heard that Vegas was starting to shut down bars and other night spots again because of COVID-19, he texted Rose to make sure everything was set before booking a flight for his family. Rose texted back, well, I'm not teaching your son how to drink. After the plane landed, the Zugans met Rose for what turned into a 2-hour lunch. I told him on 2 or 3 different occasions, "Hey, Pete, I know you're a busy man. We'll let you go. We appreciate what you're doing, and we'll see you tomorrow and Saturday," Pete Zugan said. He said, "No, no, no," and then he'd tell us another story. He talked about Joe DiMaggio. He talked about Roberto Clemente. He called him Bobby. And he was talking about Mickey Mantle. I asked him about breaking Ty Cobb's all-time hits record, and he told me what was going through his mind at the time. To be honest with you, it's like I've known him all my life. His passion for the game is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. That man, in his heart, he wants to help kids. He wants kids to be better ball players. Swinging a bat for 8 hours, the 79-year-old Rose spent 4 hours with Peyton on Friday and 4 more hours on Saturday in one-on-one sessions at the indoor facility. They worked on his stance and his grip and went over different game scenarios. "I'm batting and I miss one because I'm getting tired," Peyton said. And he goes, "You know, it's crazy. I struck out 1,000 times in my career, but I batted 15,000 times." One of Rose's favorite scenarios: there are runners on second and third with no outs and the infielders playing at normal depth. How are you going to get the runners home without hitting the ball out in the infield? "Hit the ball to second base," Rose said. He's never seen it done. "Now, get up there and hit 5 straight balls to second base," Rose told Peyton. "How are you going to do that?" Peyton guessed footwork. "No," Rose said. "It's all in your hands." Rose grabbed a bat and put Peyton's hands in the right position. Peyton, who bats right-handed, proceeded to hit 5 straight pitches to second base. At one point, Rose's son Tyler, who was watching these sessions, pulled Pete Zugan aside. He told me, "Hey, I just hope your son understands what is happening," Pete Zugan said. He said that other than him and his brother Pete Jr. getting private lessons from their dad, he's never done them. It's never happened. Priceless memories. Pete Zugan didn't divulge how much it cost to have an audience with the baseball giant. "It didn't cost as much as you'd think it cost," he said. His hourly rate was almost nothing. Rose's advice and insight, on the other hand, were invaluable. After both sessions, that man would call me up, Pete Zugan said. "What did you think of today's session? What did Peyton learn?" We'd also joke around. We had an unbelievable time. I told him about my son being a pitcher. You know what he said to me: "I don't give a bleep bleep about pitchers or pitching. I hate 'em." At the end of the day, it was cool to look back at how persistent Pete was with my son. His undivided attention, Rose figured, was the least he could offer. "I've worked with big leaguers, but I haven't had a lot of time to work with youngsters," Rose told the News Journal. "But I did it because of Mike Gottfried, and Pete's a good guy and Peyton's a good kid. If they're willing to get on a plane from Ohio and fly to Vegas in the middle of a pandemic to spend a few days talking about hitting, I'm going to work my ass off for 'em. I'm in no hurry. I'm not going anywhere." Catalysts for those great Cincinnati Reds teams of the 1970s, nicknamed the Big Red Machine, Rose played in the big leagues from 1963 to 86 and holds MLB records for hits, 4,256, games played, 3,562, at-bats, 14,053, singles, 3,215, and outs, 10,328. He won 3 World Series rings, 3 batting titles, 1 Most Valuable Player award, and 2 Gold Gloves and the Rookie of the Year award, and also made 17 All-Star appearances at an unequaled 5 positions: second base, left field, right field, third base, and first base. He also managed the Reds from 1984 to 89. Peyton wasn't around for any of it, but he has always treasured the baseball his dad had autographed years ago by Rose. It sits front and center on Peyton's dresser. "I always thought of him as an amazing batter, but I also paid attention to how he carried himself as a player," Peyton said. "Whenever anybody does something to mess up, they just jog on the field. One thing about Pete, If he stuck out or made an error, or if he struck out or made an error, he still hustled. He didn't hang his head. That's when I really got interested in him. Rose's permanent banishment from baseball in 1989 for gambling on games does not sit well with many fans, including, as you can imagine, the Zugans. His possible reinstatement and election to the Hall of Fame remains a hot-button issue. It's not like when we got there that Rose just wanted to get it over with quickly, Pete Zugan said. I can't tell you enough how cool the guy was. His passion for baseball is insane. It's a shame they don't put the guy in the Hall of Fame. The things he could do for kids. When Ontario High baseball coach and athletic director Jeff Fisher heard Peyton's story, it reminded him of when he was a collegian playing 2 summers for the Cincinnati Spirit in the Great Lakes League. One of his teammates was David DeLucci, who played 13 years in the majors, including a couple with the Indians. It was the first time I was really struggling as a hitter. My average was below the Mendoza line. I was just searching, Fisher said. DeLucci gave me a couple of pointers, and from then on, my confidence skyrocketed. By the end of the year, I was hitting in the 3-hole. It's those kind of moments when you grow in baseball, if you have opportunities like that where you meet exceptional people. If you stay in sports long enough, you're going to cross paths with people, and those connections will carry you throughout your adult life, typically for the positive. At my level as coach, it's good to get kids out of the fear zone and to be able to get in the box and get comfortable. And then it's about doing more than just swinging the bat. You want to maximize the situation, maximize the at-bats, so you're helping your team score runs and win games. In Peyton's case, to have an opportunity like this, where you're exposed to elite-type recommendations, if that can't get him to where he puts his spikes in the ground and feels like he has the upper hand against competition, that's worth its weight in gold. Well, get your bat. His calloused hands probably haven't healed yet, but Peyton wouldn't trade those 8 hours in the batting cage for anything. Charlie Poe, a minor league coach for the Chicago White Sox, was there watching. He said, and he told me, one thing that's crazy. Pete didn't think you could do it. Most major leagues last only 30 minutes. You're working way harder. From the moment I walked in the first day, it was get your bat, and the private tutoring might not be over. Pete hands me his phone, and on the other end is Pete Jr., a former pro who had a brief stint with the Reds. Pete Zugan said, he said, my dad said what he was doing for you guys. Anything you ever need, bring your son to Cincinnati. I'll train him anyway. Hustle and hard work is everything. That was Peyton's takeaway from an unforgettable weekend. I tell kids the same things every day when I'm signing autographs, Rose said. First, if they're young, I tell the dads to tell them what it means to be aggressive. Then I would tell the kids to be aggressive. And the next thing I tell them is to be more aggressive. And then the next thing I tell them is never to be satisfied. You can't be a good hitter without being aggressive. I was successful because I was aggressive. I was aggressive on the base paths. I was aggressive defensively, and I played aggressive on offense. That's why I hold the records for 2-hit games, 3-hit games, 4-hit games, and 5-hit games. I was never satisfied. I think I was the most aggressive player to ever play baseball. Well, this concludes the reading of the Mansfield News Journal for Friday, August 21st. This is Pam saying, please stay safe if you can, and stay indoors, be blessed, and make it a great day.